the real thing I want to talk about. I got caught up on, of course, the Acolyte, and it was interesting. Um, I I I put a video out on Friday talking about one of the aspects that's been criticized, which I thought was weird. But before we get into that, just curious, what did you think of the episode overall?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I gave it a 9 out of 10
Okay.
over on my channel. Absolutely. I mean, I don't that's all I can really say is I loved it. Do I think it's up there with like the Phantom Menace and the prequels as far as like this lightsaber battles? Like, do I think it's even better than Ahsoka? I think Ahsoka's like a smidge better, but nonetheless, with that aside, ranking, it still was like really, really, really cool.
Yeah.
And spoilers, I guess, but you know, I got a big payoff with this. Because when I saw the cortosis weave in action, like I know we're seeing on the internet, like not a lot of people knew what that was. And a lot of the anti-acolyte people were using this as a tool to say, oh, what is this? This is crazy. This isn't in
Yeah.
lore. And then I start to see them do their research or learn from Emergency Awesome or something like, oh, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just really fun to see. And again, just to be one of the people that see that instantly, see that lightsaber dissipate, which great effects, by the way.
Yeah.
And then so like, oh, are they really doing cortosis weave? And then absolutely. So that along with the lightsaber fight, along with the character development of this quote unquote Sith,
Mm-hmm.
Humir, Smilo Ren, I guess we'll call him, um, is awesome too. I'm loving that character. He's buff like Arnold, buff like Arnold's like 1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger buff, which I know everyone's excited about, but which was kind of cool. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it's par for the course for me. So take it as you will, but I loved it. I'm taking a victory lap. So that's my attitude toward it.
um. Well, first off, I'd like to say I was right that he was the Sith. Like, I, and
He's not the
I've
Sith Lord. He's the apprentice, though. Like
right,
I will say, okay, yes, he is Sith, even though he didn't say I'm Sith. He said, "You call me Sith," but him saying acolyte says, okay, well, that's an apprentice's apprentice. Anyway,
right,
but
right, right,
that's exciting to me. But yeah, I thought they were laying it on too heavy, but they weren't. They were just okay. Yep, that's him. But I think we have a little bit more to unfold here as far as his master, which I'm excited about.
right, right. And I've said this before too. Like all of these shows, in my opinion, have that. They all build to whatever that exciting scene is, and we're all like, "Oh my god," when it happens, and then it usually trails off after that, or it's the end of the season, like season 2 of The Mandalorian. We had the triumphant return of Luke mowing down all those robots,
Hmm.
and then of course the lightsaber battle with Obi-Wan and Darth. Like the rest of the season's like, but then you get to that scene and it's like it made it all worth it. I kind of feel like that was this scene for this series was that that fight on the planet. And it was the whole episode long too. It wasn't just like a quick
Yeah.
5-minute thing. It was the whole episode. Um yes, there was some bad physics when he cuts the trees with his lightsaber and they fall backwards, even though there's they should have fallen forward the way the cut was. But it was to show it was a visual thing to see the glowing tree trunks. Um,
Right.
and but like yeah, because I saw people complaining about that too, and I'm like, oh, come on, really? Um, I really, I and
Oh, I got a knit. Let me pick it. Let me knit. Okay, there we go. I
I
got
I
that.
I honestly thought that was something that John, if he was here, would have pointed out, and then I would have been like, "Oh yeah, just like in real life when you shoot a car, it always explodes, right?" Like
Well,
it's
see,
TV and
John's
movie
back.
physics.
Well, right, but John's backed up by the fact that This guy is Shad Brooks or whatever, Shadiversary guy who I enjoyed, who does like a bunch of weapon shit on
Mhm,
YouTube and is very versed in it, English fellow. But now he's like sitting there making fun of this, laughing
mhm.
like a 12-year-old that just found a porno book or something, at every little move, ridiculing it. And my point to him, on one of his posts was like, these are lightsabers being wielded by space wizards. Like, you can't apply our martial arts in our historic and present day to a galaxy, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
Um, so that's just kind of dumb. And I just, the unfortunate part is, like, I could critique it, whatever. But he used to be just somebody that, like, I thought was really informative, and now is obviously just kind of trying to get in there as far as poking at this and
Oh, yeah.
out for
Yeah,
that. So that's unfortunate side of things with that sort of thing. But yes, John would definitely have something to say as he holds this to Shakespearean standards.
Padawan's rule, says Thrawn.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not a Padawan because actually one of my best friends is actually ordained in the religion of the Force. And on one of my birthdays, I had a knighting ceremony. So other than, I'm a Fata knight, I guess. I don't know. I'm absolutely Padawan.
The, but the one criticism I've seen a few times, and it's why I did the video, was, "Oh, there's no way that one Sith would have beaten all those Jedi." And I'm like, "Have you been paying attention to any canon for the last 40 years?" Like, obviously, there's many cases where Sith have beaten multiple Jedi in a fight, and we're also dealing with Jedi who believe the Sith are extinct for a millennia, have not trained to be able to handle them. In fact, that's a point they make over and over in the episode. They keep going, "What are you?" Because they see that he's a force user, but it's like they don't understand what a Sith is. They don't understand what a dark side force user is. Like in that respect, they're confused. Like they make that point in the episode. They have no idea how to handle this guy, and it's quite obvious, right? Like if you go up against a force of any kind that you're not familiar with, you're going to lose time, especially because he's trained his whole life to kill Jedi, and they don't know what this is. So it was just like, I don't know why people were complaining, you know? I mean, um, and it's funny too because I did get a comment on the video,
Rather
where
long one.
a rather long comment where it was just like, because I pointed out that Anakin and Obi-Wan were both beaten by Dooku in Attack of the Clones, and that, and then Yoda comes in and they have their fight, and then Dooku escapes. But that's the fight where Anakin loses half of his arm, and he puts this whole big long post. I'm not going to read it. People should
Yeah.
go check out that video on Friday and read the comment. But it was like, well, no, Anakin was defeated by changing to the dark side, and it was like, why are you making this a poetic thing? I'm just pointing out that the Sith beat the Jedi all the time in canon. Like it's happened multiple times. Let's not act like it never happens, you know. So,
Yeah, and I pointed out too, in the comments, and I'll just kind of repeat it here, is that, like, the Jedi main characters that we know are like exceptional
mhm,
Jedi. Like, not all Jedi are that badass. So going into this episode, of all the Jedi they had there, we only knew like three of
right.
them. So you cannot account for their power or training level. And I've also seen complaints like, oh, it was like 6 7, on one, but people were like standing in the background, they weren't even swinging. Like, well, because we just discussed it, there was a bunch of trees and shit there. Lightsabers will
Mhm,
fucking cleave a tree. Like, who wants trees falling on you? Like, you could come up with excuses all day. It's just
right.
you got to be there to enjoy it or not. And that's where ultimately I lie. Are you there to enjoy it, or are you there to nitpick it because you think it's something it's not?
Right, exactly. And that's, well, that's another thing that um I commented I think on someone else's post complaining about the show where it was like, oh, no, I responded to a comment on one of our posts where it's like, uh, Star Wars fans are just mad that Star Wars isn't what they want it to be. It's not, there's all these arguments of like, oh, they've destroyed it and blah blah. And it's like, well, no, it's just not what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's maybe they make missteps along the way. Like there's a lot of things you can point to, but like I just feel like they're tearing it down just to tear it down at this point.
Well,
You know?
I think that it's a little bit misguided, not realizing or just being ignoring the fact that when it comes to like the life cycle of properties, like Star Wars is one of the longest out there.
Yeah.
And so what that means is there's going to be multiple groups of people that latched on the universe at different points within different ideas. I think Star Wars overall has a very clear overarching point, which is like, yeah, Empire, taking over, killing people, bad, dark
Mhm.
side, bad, but then also can't be blind the other way either. Either way, fascism and control, power, bad. Um, but other than that, though, it's just there for you to enjoy. And if you don't, if it's not your head canon, and I understand, like the X Men comics aren't where my X Men head canon is. It's not where I latched onto the X Men,
Right.
but it's gonna evolve, and it's okay to be like, okay, yeah, that's not my favorite, but to actively campaign against it, um, when it's obvious you're not even trying to enjoy it, and you're just trying to clickbait or whatever,
Right.
that's where you lose me.
Thrawn says there's already another interpretation of Hellboy coming out this year. Yes,
There
and
sure is.
yeah, we'll get to that. That's one of our news articles.
I
But
remember
yeah,
asking for that.
I mean, like, here's the thing, right? Like, Star Wars has been around for so long, and there's a series of 9 films which are the quote unquote main canon.
Like Superman at this point. There's been so many writers, like canon or not, or legends or not. There's just been so much shit written.
But
You just can't say, "Oh, this can't be done."
then you take something like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that are reinvented every 3 or 4 years for a new audience, and we've just grown to accept it at this point, right? Like, there is no one canon for them, but people
Yeah,
want one canon for Star Wars, and if it doesn't match what's in their head, then they get upset. Yeah, so
yeah. You can't do that. You just can't, or you'll be upset all the time. You know, there
yeah,
will be something that comes around that you'll enjoy.
and it also is, right, like, Star Wars has been around so long, and 2 is probably the biggest franchise, I think, that exists.
Absolutely,
The largest fan
absolutely.
base, the movies have made the most money, all of that stuff. So it's like, I do believe there's a thing where people see that and they see, "Oh, there's a group of people upset about this show, so I'm gonna latch onto it on social media and talk about it to get clicks and likes and shares," and it just makes it look even worse.
Yeah.
And I do think it was review bombed, like, and
Dude, look at other movies that are just trash. Look at their scores and compare it to Acolyte, and you'll be like, okay, yeah, obviously this isn't scaling correctly here.
yeah.
But absolutely, Star Wars has been around for so long. It's actually the originator of like fanfare, really,
Mhm.
as far as like people dressing up as characters and
Oh, yeah.
gathering together and shit, like, you know, that and maybe Star Trek, maybe number two, I guess. I know Star Trek comes first, but then died, and Star Wars actually brought Star
Mhm.
Trek back. So
Yes.
you can look at that however way you want. Um, but definitely an originator in the whole fanfare universe thing we now all latch to.
Right.
It is. So, and that's what I'm coming to terms with is, I'm having fun with, again, the people that are like hating on it, and it kind of reveals how much they actually don't know. I mean, that's funny. So I have fun with that. But as far as like taking it seriously, I keep that in mind. Like there's so many fans and it's the internet. They're all going to gather someplace, and this is what we get.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, all right, all right. I have a total aside that's kind of related to what you just said. Um,
Go for it.
I had a Facebook friend, right? Like somebody I didn't know in real life, but I was friends with on Facebook because I have a
You
lot
did
of
use
like
air quotes for those that are on the audio.
yes, yes. For like but like people that are in the comic book circles or convention circles or whatever, like I'll get suggestions of friend this person and basically and again, this is also slightly political um so I apologize up front, but he put a post on there. It was like it was a meme where it was a quote from someone online where it was like 70 to 80 year olds are not part of the job market because of their deteriorating health, and yet they're running they're our only choice to run the country or something like that. And like I just said um that people who comment like this fascinate me because they're also the same people who don't go out and vote in the primaries, right? Like you could have voted in the primaries and voted someone else to be the nominee, but you didn't. So now we're stuck with 2 80-year-olds, right? So um and then he came back with not for Democrats, Biden was the only choice because he was the incumbent, and I was like, "No, there was," and I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but there were 2 other people who challenged him. They didn't get much of a vote because I mean, it's just a normal thing that the incumbent gets all the votes, but it's like there were 2 people who challenged him, and if you really didn't want him, you could have voted for one of these other 2 guys, and just all of a sudden blew up at me and said, "Screw you and your high horse," and all this. I'm like, I was just pointing out that like we could have done something different. And it's the same idea, right? Like you didn't really
Right.
know this. You went in and just posted a thing to get likes and comments. And it's like, well, when I pointed out, well, here's the flaw in your logic, you just got mad at me. And it's the
Load,
same
yeah.
idea, I think, with the Star Wars fans. Like they don't know what's going on. They just say this is stupid, and then you go, well, no, because of this and this and this in canon, it makes sense,
Yeah.
and they get mad at you, right? So unfortunately, that's
Yeah.
the world of the internet.
Yeah, well, and that's sad because, right? Because it's like you don't talk politics at Thanksgiving, so now any day now, Star Wars will be on the list.
Don't
Don't
talk
talk
Star Wars.
politics and Star Wars at Thanksgiving.
Unfortunately, I think we're headed that way. Do you know how many people that I know that are big Star Wars fans who haven't even watched the show? And part of it is because they see all the crap online and they're, like, afraid to watch it now.
That sucks. Yeah, that see that yeah, that burns my buns a little bit because but at the same time I could see that because at the end of the day, this is I don't want to say it's not consequential because to me, I'm enjoying this because of all the stuff I get to learn and experience about the universe that I love.
Mhm.
I'm not looking for this to like affect anything that I've already seen, which for some reason there just seems to be a lot of people that are looking for that, and yeah, they're just really looking to connect those dots. And I'm just having fun with it because again, this is before anything that we really know of from now.
Well, and that's the thing too, there's 3 episodes left. Don't know where this is gonna end up, but I still have this bad feeling that Yoda's gonna show up at the end in
And he's
some capacity.
probably well, and he's probably not going to. I don't think the Jedi are going to look great here. I think, hey, we already went political, so I'll bust out this joke. Like, those that witch coven, like they could have got like Branch Davidian by the Jedi. Like Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
And so far the Jedi have not like they've seemed to have really fucking
That's
guilty conscience about shit.
that's where I
Um,
thought they were going with it, in all honesty. I thought it was gonna be the 4 Jedi caused that fire and killed everyone,
yeah.
and so far, they haven't shown that's what it is, and I kinda feel like if they do it now, it's gonna feel weird after everything that's happened.
I don't know. It's not. I'm thinking that's what we're going to learn for the basically because also remember Queermere is actually like, "Oh, you don't recognize me?" when him and Soul.
Yeah.
So there's something there, like, you know, he may have even been a Padawan or something that was there that he doesn't remember. I don't know. But we still got 3 episodes, and I actually think there's a lot we're gonna learn about this event. And hopefully we get at least a glimpse of like who the Sith Lord is. Which would be cool.
Perhaps, how do you say that? Kalanka fights the white guy trying to protect the witches. Is that the Is that the Wookiee?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. Kelnaka is the Wookiee Jedi. Yeah.
right. So, and the I don't remember the white guy's name either. The little guy with the had the fake beard and drank the poison.
Oh, Master Torben.
Torben, yeah. So, okay. I mean, that would be an interesting twist. They fought each other. Yeah, we'll see. Because that was the big complaint. Obviously, not this episode. The previous episode was we never got to see him fight the Wookiee. Like,
Yeah, I think we still see a flashback. I think we'll see him, fight maybe perhaps back at the Witch Coven place. Um, but I'm
so
sure we'll see it.
okay. I do have to say this, and it's I don't want to say like I hated the writing or anything, but this episode made me start to see some of the cracks in the writing, and it's a simple thing, but the more I think about it, it kind of bothers me a little bit. It was the best episode so far, and Osha and May are totally inconsequential to the episode. Like there is May switches out Osha, the whole thing at the end of the episode, but like the fight and all itself, they're not really in it. So it's really just, you know,
Yeah,
like yeah. I mean, other than being chased, and everyone chasing everyone around, but like you could have not
kind of
have
switching.
yeah, you could have had them knocked out the entire episode and it still would have been a cool episode. So
I can't disagree with that. I guess I don't really see it as a negative, but you are right. I mean, as far as the main character being a little bit inconsequential, other than the switching, the May doing the OSHA doing the May thing now, which we'll see where that goes. Wonder if that explains why Master Soul never makes it back to report this Sith. Otherwise, because and maybe we're trying to move on here. We just want to say one thing, like this really is starting to prove that Mundi really may have been a bad guy and responsible for Qui-Gon's death, because I think he does know. And so in that, that scene, I made a joke like, "Oh, no, Sith," like even if it wasn't Sith, like when Qui-Gon was like, "Yeah, this is what we encountered," like, yeah, Mundi should have like, "Oh, yeah, so there was this dark side user one time and he killed like 8 Jedi. So since we're sending you back to draw out the Queen's attacker, maybe you should take more than just like there's
right.
just a lot of but that's what I'm saying though. Like he's not like some infallible Jedi. I think he's a big asshat, and I think this is gonna make him even bigger asshat, responsible
Um
for Qui-Gon's death.
oh shoot, I had a point. It just went out of my head. Oh, Soul at the end of the episode, he doesn't say where's May. He says where's
Yeah.
your sister, which felt like stressed. Like he did that on purpose as in he knows already, right? Like something's going to happen next episode and he's not going to be surprised. Like she's going to try to catch him off guard
And
and she
he's
won't be
gonna
able
know.
he's going to know that it's May, not Osha, because the whole time he's never said your sister, he's always said May or Osha. And now all of a
Mhm.
sudden it was like, where's your sister? It was like, don't you? So,
I think he does, and I think he's almost relieved that he has May instead of Osha, because I think May witnessed something, and now that she's alive, that's problematic to the Jedi. And I like Soul. I like the character of Soul, but I'm definitely prepared for the fact that I may learn he might have been in on, his conscience may not be clear. He seems to really care now, and regret will make you do that. But I don't know. We'll see. That's another
right.
intriguing thing about the story to me that I want to Hopefully, we'll get to find out. They do still have to stick the landing. As much as I like this show and love Star Wars, they do have a landing to stick here. I will definitely,
Yeah, big time.
be looking out for that.
Thrawn says is really developing the for the greater good attitude. Are you talking about Soul? Is developing a greater good for the greater good attitude? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Thrawn. Um, so yeah, and he also did point out that the scene where his eyes turned black, the one
Yeah.
Jedi, so maybe he was controlled. Oh, yeah, Mundi. Yeah, yeah. Is it a yeah? You do have a good point. Is that what it is? It's like it's for the greater good, and he thinks he's doing the right thing, but he's really an asshat, as Don said so eloquently.
Yeah, he's, great value, Conehead.
Oh
But
my
what but
god, that
but
was
no,
terrible.
you think though, I don't know, for the greater good, so for the greater good, I'm gonna let this fellow Jedi Master and his Padawan and this, big-headed kid go back to a planet where they could be attacked by something that I've seen kill 8 Jedi? Okay. It's a stretch to me.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Superhero Speak podcast. And don't forget to watch us live every Sunday night right here on this channel.
While you're here, hit the subscribe button and click the bell for notifications so you won't miss out on any of our great upcoming content.
Speaking of content, don't forget to check out our website, superheroespeak.com, where you can find the podcast, links to our social media, merch, comic reviews, and so much more. That's superheroespeak.com.
Thanks for watching, and don't let your cape be caught in the door. See you next time.